Good evening, Ravi Shankar sir.
Good evening.
Good evening, Ravi. Can we start, Niranjan?
Yes, sir. We'll start, sir.
Are we waiting for anybody?
No, I thought all our PGs I think have logged in. We'll start, sir.
Yeah, please do. Please do.
Good evening, everyone. Today for today's journal club, Dr. Pawan will be presenting a journal which is on quite an interesting topic, where we all of us are aware that laparoscopic cholecystectomy is the standard of care for gallbladder stones. This paper tries to show us an alternative technique for gallbladder stones treatment. Whether it is relevant, whether we can follow that, we will discuss as and when the session progresses. I request Dr. Pawan to start off.
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Pawan, first year DNB resident from Sagar Hospitals. Today, my topic in this journal club is role of gallbladder preserving surgery in the treatment of gallstone diseases in young and middle-aged patients in China. It is a single institution study done by Qiang Q et al. In PUMC Hospital, Beijing, and this is a prospective study conducted over a period of 10 years from Jan 2007 to December 2016, and this study is accepted on 4th September 2018, and this is published by Elsevier Publications, having a good impact factor. So gallbladder stones are predominant gastrointestinal disease throughout the world, and patients having symptomatic gallstones are advised for operative treatment. So the standard procedure for the symptomatic gallstones is cholecystectomy. So in China, the removal of still functioning gallbladder is associated with several physiological changes in the GI tract and severe possibility of severe operative morbidities like bile duct injury, bleeding, and bile leak. So in China, the traditional cultural belief that people should keep the body intact up to the time of their burial or cremation, so they do not have, they don't want to remove their organs as a expression of a respect for the dead and their ancestors and for the nature. The advantages of the cholecystectomy is long-term metabolic consequences, risk in the non-alcoholic fatty liver disease and colorectal neoplasms. So the ideal treatment for the symptomatic gallstones, according to this, is study gallbladder preserving cholecystolithotomy, in which patients who are desire to preserve the gallbladder, and especially in the young patients with one or small number of stones that may not recur after the treatment. This GPS study was first described by Akiyama et al. And Kerlan et al. In 1985, and this procedure was adapted by Kellett et al. In 1918. Cheslin Curtis et al. Confirmed this. The role of GPC in the management in elderly and high-risk patients in a mean period follow-up of 14 months. The enthusiasm of technique decreased due to recurrence in the gallstones, whereas the recurrence rate has decreased in the last 10 years due to increase in the minimal invasive operative techniques using laparoscopy and luminal cystoscopy. Gov et al. Reported gallbladder preserving surgery can be performed in completely laparoscopic or laparoscopic assisted manner. The inclusion criteria considered in this study, patients having a strong desire to preserve the gallbladder, and gallbladder having a thickness less than 3 mm and gallbladder ejection emptying index more than 30%. So complications like acute cholecystitis, acute cholangitis, biliary pancreatitis, and gallbladder having a suspicion of any malignancy or multiple stones more than 3 or gallbladder sludge is excluded from this study. So out of 1784 patients having symptomatic gallstones, 1224 patients underwent laparoscopic cholecystectomy, and the patients intended for this GPC procedure is 560 patients, and out of which excluding the patients having exclusion criteria, we excluded that the patients considered in this study is 216 patients, out of which 81 patients are male and 135 patients are female. So the demographic and the clinico-pathological data includes the patient's age, sex, and the BMI, any family history, and comorbid conditions like diabetes and liver disorders, and clinical course of the polylithiasis. The basis for this study is maximal gallstone size or a number of gallstones and thickness of the gallbladder wall. So before and after operation, various laboratory investigations are determined using Beckman-Coulter AU5800. So through this, they done lipid profile like triglycerides, total cholesterol, HDL and LDL, and LFT includes total bilirubin, total serum bile acids, and alanine amino transferrin, and GGT and glucose. So the contractile emptying of the gallbladder is evaluated by measuring the gallbladder volume through ultrasonographic scanner by fasting state minimum of 6 hours and after the ingestion of a standard meals. So the image in this slide A shows fasting gallbladder of size 7.2 by 2.6 by 3.2 centimeters, whereas the image B in this slide shows the after ingestion of the standard meal, the size of the gallbladder is shown. So measurement taken at the intervals of 45 to 60 minutes, and the sagittal and transverse sections are considered as the largest dimensions, and ellipsoid method is used in the ultrasonographic pictures to measure the volume. That is, volume is 0.52 into height into width into length. The emptying index is calculated through the formula volume of the gallbladder before fatty meals minus volume of the gallbladder after fatty meals by volume of gallbladder before fatty meals.
Yes, Hari? Yes, sir. What are your comments and critiques till now?
Yes, sir. Sir, regarding critique for good critiques, sir, it's a good relevant topic, sir. Relevant study with in good journal, and it's a prospective study, he said, and also the criteria, inclusion and exclusion criteria are fairly good, sir, and their collection of data is good and study design is fairly good, sir.
Okay.
And I feel the numbers are small. So they say so 1,700. And finally, the numbers are small for the study. And against an, I don't know. So this is
Numbers
newer.
are small for the study, but do you think the numbers, even though small, are sufficient to give us any indication for the endpoint?
You can say, sir, but final result, the numbers cannot be like supportive. No? So we need more numbers. I thought after the final numbers were clear.
Okay, you go
And
on.
also, this is a new hypothesis, no, sir. This one, like not removing gallbladder. So I don't know whether it is a good critic or bad critic I should put.
It is not a new hypothesis. It has been there for quite a long time, since 1980s.
Okay.
So as Pawan said, it is now picked up because of the minimal invasive technique. People are trying that. That is what Pawan told.
Okay. Okay, sir. Oh, that's all, sir.
Saurav?
So Saurav, sir, is in emergency. He's joined back now.
Okay.
Shortly.
Ajit?
Sir, for Hari has mentioned all the most of the points, sir. But I want to add one more. They have mentioned only the number of stones, sir. They have not mentioned size of individual stone. So in literature, it is mentioned that if the stone is more than 3 centimeter, there are more chances of malignancy. So that point, the size of the individual stone, they have not mentioned, sir.
The size of the individual stone for inclusion criteria, they are not mentioned, but they have given us the details later. Yes, okay. Then, anything else?
Nothing
You are
else.
okay with all the
And
inclusion
whether this
criteria?
can be done in all age group, I could not get, sir. I don't think they have considered this age group criteria because some patient will be elderly.
They have considered. They have considered. Will you accept for younger and middle age group this technique? Will you accept?
Sir, I will prefer to have larger sample size, sir. 216, I think less for this.
No. We are not talking about the sample size. Since you are talking about the age groups, what they have done is they have included middle and younger age group. Okay. So, do you agree with their inclusion criteria? Will you try this technique for younger and middle age group?
Yes, sir. Yes, as a novel technique, we can.
Not as a novel technique.
Old age also, no, sir, since it is symptomatic cholestasis only. So that should be like against, I think, sir. I mean, like, I don't know.
No, Hari, I think none of you are understanding the question which Niranjan is asking. Will you consider this technique for younger group? And you should understand why he is asking that question.
Yes.
Yes, sir, we'll consider for that, sir, because of the suggested this thing, problem, long-term complication. We can agree for the younger patients, sir.
Sorry?
No, but,
We can accept for the younger patients, sir, younger age group.
no,
What is the problem in accepting?
Hari, there you have to analyze it in a bit more, use some common sense. Anybody else?
I think we don't have much of
Increase morbidity, sir, if in younger group. So
no, Ajit, one thing is, see, younger patients, okay, so if you do this cholecystolithotomy, they have a large life in front of them where they can again develop, gallbladder stones. So you are unnecessarily doing another operation, and so every time you repeat an operation, all the risks that are associated are there. So that is one problem. Second problem is the problem of malignancy in patients who have had gallstones. So younger patients are more likely to develop malignancy, even though the stone may not be necessarily there. The process that has initiated the stone formation is implicated in the formation of malignancy. It's not the stone that causes the malignancy alone. Stone obviously may be one of the causes, but it is the process. So again, more chances of development of malignancy. So if at all anything, this process could be considered in a relatively older age group rather than younger age group. Maybe.
Yes, sir. Yes. Anything else, sir? I don't think we have any more PGs today. Only
Okay.
all 3 of them are there.
Okay. Other thing I would, I think, see the students have to understand that for a problem that is so big and universal, 216 patients is not a good sample. For a problem that is a small problem, for example, if you are talking about pancreatic, ductal neoplasms, such thing.
Hello?
We
Hello?
have lost you, Ravi. Some problem with the audio.
Lakshman sir, your comment, sir?
Yeah.
Or you want to ask any question?
216 patients will be a very
Ravi,
Not
there
audible.
is some problem
Ravi,
with the
sir.
audio, Ravi.
Network issue, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah.
In
You
the
know,
meantime, your
if I
comments
can,
and
yeah, if I can, I made a few notes after I read it and I'll just go through those
Yes, sir.
notes.
yes, sir.
Definitely, it's a provocative topic. It's interesting. You made the mention about it being a good journal. It's a recent study. And what is important is, please look at the cohort that they have. You said that 216 is a good number, but as Ravi was making a very valid point, for a condition which is as common as gallstones, 216 is a very small number. You know,
Yes.
I got the trend. We couldn't hear him well, but he was making the point, I think, that something which is rare, like, IPMN of the pancreas or something, 200 is a very good number.
Correct.
But for gallstone, you need to have numbers in much larger numbers. But what is more important is that you started off with something like 1500 cases of gallstones. You end up with 30%, about 500, who asked for gallbladder preservation. And when you apply your criteria, you have less than half of them. Okay, 216, not even 250. 216
Yes.
patients having this cholecystole lithotomy, which means that a very small number of your own cohort are eligible for coming into the study. And they have willy-nilly got into young and middle-aged patients. And in fact, Ravi made the point, and I'm not going to repeat it. It is true that if you think of offering it at all to anybody, it must be in the older age group, because please understand that the longer they live, the longer are the possibilities of complications. That is as far as the selection of patients is concerned. Are we discussing the methodology? No.
Follow up and rest of the operative procedure later.
Okay.
Till now, whatever he has covered, we will be critiquing that much.
Then there is another important point about the investigation. They have used ultrasound as the requirement for measuring the ejection fraction. And definitely ultrasound is inferior to HIDA scan.
That's right, yes.
It's an important thing, and they should have really looked at the HIDA scan to know. And please note that the majority of patients, something like 50 to 60% of patients who have gallstones will have impaired function. And that is one of the main reasons you can't even offer them UDCA tablets, because one of the requirements for UDCA for dissolution of gallstones is a functioning gallbladder. And a majority of patients with gallstones will not have a functioning gallbladder. Thank you.
Niranjan, can I comment?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I agree with Dr. Lakshman on the point that the gallbladder function assessment has not been, even with 4D ultrasound scan, and there is a 2011 or 12 paper which compared about 45 patients who underwent both HIDA scan and 4D ultrasound. The congruence rates is only about 75 to 80%. So, and obviously the HIDA is a much more sort of accepted standard as far as gallbladder functioning is concerned. So I think they should have, if they were going to make a groundbreaking kind of discovery which they want to do, they should have used the gold standard, which is the HIDA scan, rather than using ultrasound.
Correct. But for what they have justified is they have validated the same. I think in their own paper, I don't know, but they mentioned that it's a validated method which they have used for measuring the gallbladder function. Although I agree that HIDA scan would have been the gold standard and it would have been more effective in analyzing.
See, I looked at the PubMed basically to look at how many comparative studies are there between ultrasound, even a 4D ultrasound and HIDA. There are not many papers, so I think that shows that still 4D ultrasound is not considered as standard as far as gallbladder function assessment is concerned.
Correct.
ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಾ sir, Dr. Lakshman sir?
Agreed completely.
And to add to Lakshman sir, this thing, and previous studies, whatever have been done on elderly and high risk groups, gallbladder preserving cholecystostomy. So, as both Lakshman sir and Ravishankar sir were mentioning, younger age group and middle age group, their lifespan will vary anywhere between 30 to 50 years or maximum sometimes. Even if they live for 100 years, it can be 80 years also sometimes. So the longer they live, the longer there is a possibility that they may land up with recurrence as well as complications due to gallbladder stones. Okay. Anyone else? Dr. Srikanth sir?
Yeah, I agree. It's not eligible for younger stones, and even if it is used for elderly, the criteria what they use, most of the elderly people does not require surgery at all with those criteria.
Yes.
They live without symptoms, I think.
Anyone else? Minishekar, I can see one new name, Amita. Amita, you want to critique?
Nothing, sir. Good evening, sir.
Yeah.
Actually, they supported their use, sir. If you remove the gallbladder in youngsters, long-term duration of the bile exposure to the entire biliary GIT tract will increase the colorectal cancer. And they mentioned, sir.
That is not proven, Minishekar. Their claim.
Yeah, it is controversial. They mentioned. Yes.
It is controversial. It is not proven.
Okay, sir. Okay.
See, Manishekar, it
Yes,
is
sir. Good evening.
difficult to find a cause-effect relation for colorectal cancer because it is a multifactorial thing. So
Yes.
if you can do a univariate analysis or a multivariate regression analysis to prove that beyond all the accepted causative factors and etiologic factors, the lack of gallbladder is an independent risk factor for development of colorectal cancer, you can accept it. But no such studies are available. So that is just a claim.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
And also to add to Lakshman sir's thing, that hypothesis what they have propagated, that it's a cultural issue in Chinese. If it was so, as sir told, almost out of nearly 1,700 to 1,800 patients, only 200 or 216 opted for this technique. So if what they're propagating is true, then the large majority should have agreed for gallbladder preservation rather than only a few.
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else is there? Amita, you want to comment?
Sir, Ajit here, sir.
Ajit? Yeah.
Sir, adding to Lakshman sir's what he said about the function of the gallbladder, there is a quote in this from Schwartz that we remove the gallbladder is removed not because it has stones, but because it forms stones. This is a quote in Schwartz.
Yeah, that is there in not in Schwartz, in all surgical textbooks.
Yes.
It is very well known. Yes. Saurav?
Yeah, students.
Sir,
Go on.
I just joined us. I missed a lot of it. I was stuck in emergency.
Fine. You can come in later. Then. No problem.
Niranjan,
Yes, sir.
if I may,
I'm just observing this. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
if I may just add something, Niranjan.
Yes, sir.
Students must understand the concept of a lithogenic bile. Right? Nobody exactly knows why gallstones form, but you know that there are three components, and the imbalance of these three components causes the gallstones, but one of the requirements is stasis. So it is not just the presence of gallstones and the complications it gives, but the patient will continue to have a lithogenic bile, and that will definitely over a period of time induce gallstones in that particular individual.
Yes, sir. Okay, Pawan?
Yes, sir.
Niranjan, one more point.
Yes, sir.
See, there is a lot of discussion currently going on about hyperreflexic gallbladder, where again cholecystectomy is offered as a treatment choice. So if if it was very simple that only preserving the gallbladder would ameliorate a lot of symptoms, then obviously that is a counterpoint to that, because I think the causation of gallstones is multifactorial, and I don't think, as Lakshman sir said, you can't pinpoint it one thing and say that is the reason for the formation of gallstones.
Correct. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I totally agree. Pawan,
Yes, sir.
your critique.
Yes, sir. So the
You don't need to repeat anything, man. If there is
Yes.
anything
Yes, sir.
extra,
Most
add
of
it.
the, anything extra, whatever has been discussed, you tell. Otherwise, I think most of the things have been
most of
covered.
the critics are covered by our seniors and the consultants, sir.
Yeah. Go on.
So the operative procedure explained in the study, under general anesthesia, patient in supine position, pneumoperitoneum is created using carbon dioxide by intraperitoneal pressure of approximately 12 mm of Hg, and laparoscopic is inserted through the umbilical trocar, and 1 centimeter diameter trocar placed under vision directly caudal to the right costal margin at the surface projection of the fundus of the gallbladder, and an incision is made over the fundus of the gallbladder using scissors, and the bile is aspirated, and normal saline wash is given for the proper visualization of the gallbladder cavity through choledocoscope, and stone is extracted with a basket. Incision of the gallbladder was closed with 40 absorbable Vicryl suture, and in the case of severe contamination in the operative area, antibiotic prophylaxis and subhepatic drainage were used for 1 day. So the operative procedure, which I explained in the earlier slides, is given in the form of image here. So the gallbladder under the laparoscopic vision. So here the thorough normal saline wash is given for the proper visualization of the gallbladder. Then with the help of choledocoscope, gallbladder stone is retrieved, and the fundus of the gallbladder is sutured with 40 absorbable Vicryl. So immediately after surgery, ursodeoxycholic 500 deoxycholic acid 500 milligrams orally for a period of 6 to 12 months. The choice of duration of taking URSO is left to the patients, and LFT, to avoid the adverse effects of this drug, LFT of the patients was monitored every 3 months. The lifestyle changes were instructed by the healthcare centers. So after GPC, there is a independent practitioner follow-up for the patient. The primary endpoint for that study is time to the gallstone recurrence. If there is no gallstone recurrence, the secondary endpoint is the end of the study, that is December 2016. The data were collected every 6 months by the investigators on OPD basis. If the patients with no evidence of the recurrence of gallbladder stones were censored at the time of the last follow-up. So symptoms after GPC procedure were asked at the OPD visits or by questionnaire to the patients, and routine ultrasound screening performed every 6 months post-operatively, even the patient is asymptomatic, and the symptoms were compared before and after surgery, and they are classified into patients having no symptoms, and having major symptoms with occasional minimal discomfort and some improvement, wholly not satisfied with the results of the treatment and no change in the symptoms. The statistical analysis in this study where continuous variables are presented as a mean with standard deviation and categorical variables are presented as a number at its and its percentage. Chi-square test was used for categorical variables and student t-test was used for continuous variables. And total follow-up time was reported as the time of their GPC until first censored point. The cumulative recurrence curve was drawn by Kaplan and Meyer method. All statistical analysis was performed using SPSS. P-value was set at 0.05 level. Yes, sir.
Yes, Hari.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Regarding critics, sir, for critics, sir, first I want to say that the follow-up was regular and quite long follow-up, years of follow-up, sir. And they mentioned that independent practitioner followed up. So that is a good point, sir. And the statistical analysis you mentioned in the last is also, sir, good statistical analysis were implied for the study. And sir, and the procedure is also explained very detailed, sir, what they do, how much pressure and etc. How they are extracted. That is also good, sir.
Okay.
And then so regarding against, I don't know much of against. See, I don't know, so the use of ursodeoxycholic acid, sir. So I don't know, is it like they left it for themselves to do, and also number of is it standard or like how it is criteria mentioned? I don't know, sir. Is it like correct or no? Like
Yeah,
sir, I mean, it's like they duration everything they are taking themselves.
So you want to take it as against?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Actually, I don't know. Is it correct or not? So I take it as against, sir.
No, yeah. Scientifically, you tell me in any paper there should be a fixed criteria. If they leave it to patients, that there is no standardization. So it is against.
Against, yes, sir.
Okay.
Other than more than the thing.
Hari.
No, sir. That's all, sir. I don't see it.
Okay, Ajit.
Same, sir. Only that because standardization should be there for ursodeoxycholic acid for all the patients. I don't know whether we can leave it to the patients to decide to themselves that how much duration they should take. So that will go as against. Other all points mentioned by Haris.
Saurav? Saurav is not there again, huh? Okay. Abdul?
Sir, nothing to add as such.
You agree with ursodeoxycholic acid use?
Pardon, sir?
You agree with the use of ursodeoxycholic acid?
No, I don't agree with it, sir.
Why?
There is no proven. It is only for cholesterol stones, they say, but it is no proven efficacy, yes, sir.
Okay. Ravi Shankar, sir?
I think he's covered most of it.
Yes, sir. Your comments on ursodeoxycholic acid, sir?
Again, I think it's not, see, none of the stone dissolving or stone preventing procedures have been proven to be of benefit. Actually, as what Dr. Lakshman said, it is the lithogenic bile, which I think is the main culprit. And I don't think there has been any mechanism to stop that. So I think the use of UDCA is very questionable. Other thing is the stone formation, the duration is more likely to be a bit longer. So the follow-up may not be at a time where it picks up all the true recurrence of gallbladder stones.
Lakshman, sir?
Yeah, there are 2 or 3 things I could think of. Yes, UDCA is known to be of some benefit only in cholesterol stones, as Abdul said, and that will be less than 30% of gallbladder stones. Most of them are mixed stones and some of them are bilirubin stones. So UDCA is not going to be very helpful. And a very arbitrary, the point you have made, arbitrary usage for 6 to 12 months. But in fact, if you look at the data, I think a large majority of them took it for a long time. And so there is no standardization there. But what is more important in the technique that they have used, they have, if you want to have complete clearance of gallstones, you need to have a choledocoscope. You got to put it into the gallbladder and see that there are no more stones left behind. So that is an additional expense, and most centers will not have a choledocoscope. You may argue that you'll probably put your laparoscope itself into the into the gallbladder, but you have to have another 10 mm or another 5 mm scope somewhere else and try and do it. That you may get over it, but these people used a choledocoscope, which is an additional expense as far as the equipment is concerned. But there's a fundamental issue with our culture. They talk about the Chinese culture where they don't want to lose an organ, but our culture is that we don't want an operation. Right? If at all our people want something, it is the lack of an operation and a cure with medication. So in our context, whether you take out the stones or take out the gallbladder, it hardly ever matters to the patient. You're doing a 40-minute operation anyway. Their average time was 40 minutes. And, we probably take out the gallbladder in 15, 20 minutes. If it's a thin-walled gallbladder like that, they took longer to do that. So to me, it has very little relevance because you're doing an operation. And so our people are not likely to accept it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And sir, one more thing, Niranjan. I don't know. I think in the Orient and China, Japan, and Korea, I think the percentage of pigment stones is quite high compared to the cholesterol stones. So I don't know whether UDCA has any relevance as far as that is concerned.
Correct, and they're not even identified, like they're not even sent it for histopathology or whatever to ascertain the nature of stones, or they're not documented.
Yeah.
Although they have commented that even though they knew that it is only for the cholesterol stones, but they have used it for all this.
Yeah.
Yes. Srikanth sir, anything else?
In fact, only cholesterol stone it is used, and also diuretic should be used for longer period and has got a lot of complications. You cannot leave it to the patient.
More than the complication, patient compliance is poor, sir, due to side effects of nausea, vomiting, bloating.
Yeah, a lot of side
complications.
Compliance is low.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, sir. And to add to Lakshman sir, this thing, I think even though they mentioned that they've used a choledocoscope, they mentioned a subcostal 10 mm incision. So I doubt whether it was a true choledocoscope or they've introduced the scope through the right upper hypochondriac incision. So as Lakshman sir was telling, so I don't know about the exact nature of the choledocoscopy which they have used.
See, I think Niranjan,
yes,
the choledocoscope is what usually about 5 mm or 4 to 5 mm size.
Correct.
So I think they can maybe use a reducer and use it, but I don't know whether you will be able to go all the way, whether it will lend itself to be, examine the whole gallbladder. I don't know.
The picture they have shown is a choledocoscope.
Choledocoscope, yes, yes. So continue, Pawan.
Yes, sir. Sir, apart from that, what consultants and our seniors discussed, the negative of these points is no evidence of recurrent cases were censored at the time of last follow-up. So then they are not giving the data for that, sir.
They arbitrarily mentioned that when there is no evidence of recurrent cases and at the time of last follow-up, and they just mentioned that they stopped that. But so when did they stop? Whether it was at the end of 1 year or 2 years or 5 years or 10 years, they're not mentioned. They just mentioned that arbitrarily that they're stopped.
Niranjan, their cutoff time was 2016.
Correct.
So the longest follow-up they had was 10 years actually.
10 years, yeah.
But they've mentioned this sentence specifically that then when there was no evidence of recurrent cases were censored at the time of last follow-up.
That is 2016.
2016.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Continue.
And Pawan, one more, the symptoms compared with before surgery is also a point which not shared, I think, in a good critique you mentioned.
Yes, sir. I mentioned, sir, the symptoms
Okay.
compared with before surgery, sir.
Okay. In the follow-up.
Have they given any figures for that?
Yes, they are given, sir.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah.
That is there in the results. Go on, Pawan.
Yes, sir. So the results of this study is the male to female ratio in the study is 0.6 to 1%, and mean age is 42.7 years, and BMI is 25.4. So out of 216 patients, 15 patients having comorbid conditions like diabetes, and 55 patients have liver diseases like hepatitis and fatty liver diseases, and 25 patients have history of cholecystitis. The symptomatic cholelithiasis was present for 0.3 to 3.7 years. So out of 216 patients, most of the patients, that is 176 patients, had only one stone, and 40 patients had multiple stones, that is less than 3 stones. The mean size of the gallstone was 1.9 centimeters plus or minus 0.6 centimeters. So out of 216, 184 patients has gallbladder emptying index is of 50%, and 32 patients have less than 50%. Out of all 216 patients underwent GPC successfully. The mean operation duration time is 41.8 minutes plus or minus 10 minutes, and post-operative duration stay is 1.7 days with plus or minus 0.4 days, and operative blood loss was estimated to be 16 ml with plus or minus 5 ml, and perioperative complications had occurred in 9 patients. So no bleeding or systemic infections occurred post-operatively. And one bile leak stopped. One bile leak is reported, that is stopped immediately after few days intraoperatively by intraoperatively placed drain. And transient postoperative cholecystitis occurred in 3 patients, which is managed conservatively, and that subcostal trocar incision wound infection occurred in 5 patients due to contamination. So in later surgeries, they avoided by careful guiding and collection of the stone in retrieval bag. The prospective follow-up of after GPC is a mean period of 59 months, and GPC relieved the symptoms caused by gallstones. Out of 216 patients, 196 patients have no stone recurrence, out of which 186 patients have free of symptoms, and the remaining patients have minor GI discomforts. And patients with stone recurrence, and majority is 70%, and did not have any symptoms. So as I mentioned that out of 216 patients, 196 patients have without stones, and out of 196 patients, 186 patients have no symptoms, and rest of 10 patients have minimal discomfort, whereas remaining 20 patients, out of which 14 patients have no symptoms, and 4 patients have minimal discomfort, and 2 patients was underwent laparoscopic cholecystectomy after stone recurrence. So after examined 1 month before and 6 months after GPC procedure, there is no significant difference found in gallbladder emptying index, or either volume of the gallbladder before meal and volume of the gallbladder after meal. So the contractile function of the gallbladder is evaluated before and after GPC procedure, which is given in this table. So 20 patients developed recurrent gallstones within 10 years. So overall recurrence of gallstones was 9.3%. So there is no significance in stone recurrence in patients who are receiving ursodeoxycholic acid for 6 months against patients receiving for 12 months. Most of the recurrences are occurred in 2 years after GPC procedure. The recurrence rates at 6 months, 12 months, and 24 months are were 2.3%, 3.7%, and 7.6%, which is the recurrent races of recurrent stone formation rates is increasing over a period. So the table in this slide shows that use of the effect of the ursodeoxycholic acid in 216 patients over a period of 6 months, and the patients who are used in over a period of 12 months. The gallbladder, the prevalence of the gallbladder stones in United States is around 10 to 15%, whereas in China it is around 10 to 10.7%. So 10% of the patients may develop symptoms within 5 years of.
Where is critic of your results is later? You put it
Sir,
later?
after discussion is there, sir?
It should be before discussion. You go to the critic. We'll come back to discussion later.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Hari?
Sir, not much of critics, sir, but one, like Ravi Shankar sir told, the recurrence number of years, the follow-up may be adequate, like in the result it is shown, more the number of years the recurrence is increasing. So that's the point we mentioned already, but other than that, in the results, I don't know, the numbers are less, but otherwise the comparable results are less. So only one thing again. Other than that, I don't have any points.
Ajit?
Sir, I think 9.3% recurrence rate for the gallstones to come back again. I think it is a little high, sir. And one more thing they have not mentioned is that what did they do for recurrence?
They mentioned.
Okay, sir, only one then. Otherwise, novel techniques, sir.
Abdul?
For.
Hello, sir.
Abdul. Your comments on critique, yes.
Hello.
Hello.
Abdul sir, you're muted.
Can hear you, Abdul sir.
Okay, Ravi Shankar sir.
I think that my major this one is about the period of follow-up, because I think probably the number of stones, number of recurrences will increase as the age advances. So I think that is one thing, but you cannot do anything about it because it's a 10-year study.
10-year study, yes.
Yeah, so that is the limitation of this.
Lakshman sir?
Yeah, one more point only to show that this is a skewed study. The number of stones in 4/5 of the cohort was 1. It was not even 2 or 3. So 4/5 of the patients had only 1 stone, and so we have to bear that in mind when we extrapolate these data to the population at large.
Yes, agree, sir. Srikanth sir?
Yeah, so following up for 10 years, doing this surgery, is it worth every 6 months patient coming for 10 years?
Yeah, that is a question.
Yeah.
It's a waste of manpower, waste of time, all those things.
Yes.
Correct. And one more point for the students, you keep on saying novel method. It's not novel. 1985 laparoscopic cholecystectomy came into work. 1984-85 this procedure also has been reported, and 1988 Henry Kellett has done it. So I don't think it's novel. It's just, as Niranjan had pointed out, because of the advances of laparoscopic surgery, it's now being done laparoscopically. That's all.
Okay, go on to your discussion. You
Yes.
want to show the critique later if you want.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
So occurrence rate of the bile duct injury remains as great in 0.4 to 4%, and post cholecystectomy syndrome occurs in 5 to 40% of the patients. include symptoms like
Occurrence of bile duct disease is in cholecystolithotomy or cholecystectomy?
No, this is for cholecystectomy.
cholecystectomy, sir.
That's
No,
good.
no. Pavan,
Sir,
the standard accepted recurrence in bile duct injury rate for open cholecystectomy is 0.39 to 0.44%, and for laparoscopic cholecystectomy is 0.44 to 0.49%. So you can't say 4% and all that.
This is according to the paper, sir.
Oh,
He's
okay.
quoting the paper. That is what they're claiming.
But that is too
It
much.
is very high. Yeah, it is very high.
I think
0.5%.
what
Should be less than 1% is the standard.
standard.
0.5%. That is what. Yeah.
Yeah.
yes, sir.
Continue, Pawan.
Yes, sir. Post-cholecystectomy syndromes occurs in 5 to 40% of the patients, which is high, and it includes symptoms like dyspepsia, diarrhea with bile reflex gastritis.
Any hurry? Do you know about the post-cholecystectomy syndrome? Hari?
Sir, sorry, sir, I didn't hear, sir.
Are you aware what is post-cholecystectomy syndrome?
No, sir.
Ajit?
Yes, sir, the syndrome in which the symptoms of the patient persist despite doing cholecystectomy, sir. Then we have to do upper GI endoscopy and re-evaluate the patient again, sir.
What are the symptoms?
Dyspepsia, sir. Then pain also can persist if you have missed something in the upper GI tract.
Do you agree with there are other symptoms also which Pawan will discuss later? Do you agree with the quoted this thing up to 40%?
Sir, 40% will be very high, sir.
Yes. It is somewhere in the range of around 5 to 10%.
10%, yeah.
5%, yeah.
Continue, Pawan.
Yes, sir. So as our Lakshman sir explained that the factors which factors in the formation of the cholesterol gallstones, that is increased stasis, abnormal smooth muscle contractility, and impaired gallbladder motility. Altered gallbladder contractility may not only result in the inflammatory response within the gallbladder secondary to the stones, also contribute to the stone formation and cholecystitis. So the indications for the GPC should be limited in patients with one stone or small number of stones around three number, and patients who had multiple stones, and healthy lifestyle should be recommended. And biochemical parameters associated in the study like glucose, lipid metabolism should be monitored, and metabolic disorders should be corrected, and advised adjuvant therapy is beneficial. So, according to this study, the GPC is a safe and effective procedure, and patients with symptomatic gallbladder stones having less than 3 stones is a good procedure, and function of the gallbladder after GPC can be maintained. And recurrence of the gallbladder stones is less than 10% in over a period of 10 years, and GPC is a alternative treatment strategy for gallstone disease, especially for young and middle-aged patients who strongly desire to preserve their gallbladder.
Go on, Pawan. The critique did.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So in this study, the negative of the study is that patients with multiple gallbladder stones and sludge are not considered, sir, for this GPC procedure and also.
No. It is not an alternative treatment strategy which is acceptable. You
Yes,
think it is acceptable?
Sir, it is not acceptable, sir, actually.
Then it is not a good thing.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you show us the literature. What does the literature say? What all they are claiming, and what does the literature say?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Coming to literature, Garba and Saidu et al. Risk factors for gallstone recurrence in patients with laparoscopic gallbladder preserving cholelithotomy. The study was published in April 30, 2019, which is a retrospective study conducted in 297 patients. The aim of this study is to observe the possible risk factors of gallstone recurrence after laparoscopic GPS procedure, and it is followed over a period of 3 years. And during the 3-year follow-up, gallstone recurrence was detected in 26 patients out of 297 patients. As a maximum recurrence rate was found at the year of 1 year duration. So the conclusion of this literature is overall recurrence rate of this gallstones after laparoscopic gallbladder preserving cholecystolithotomy was 8.75% during 3 years of follow-up. So use of GPC in patients with gallstone should be considered carefully because of stone recurrence, and long-term follow-up should be highly recommended. So these are the various biological variables what they consider in this study.
Go on.
And DeCango et al. Studied totally laparoscopic gallbladder surgery, a minimally invasive and favorable approach to cholelithiasis, which is accepted in October 21 in 2014. The aim of the study is to investigate the effectiveness of the laparoscopic gallbladder preserving surgery for cholelithiasis and feasibility and value of totally laparoscopic GPS procedure. The study sample in this population is 517 patients, out of which the laparoscopic GPS procedure 365 patients are included, and total laparoscopic GPS procedure 143 patients are included. The follow-up period is over 3 to 54 months. The conclusion of this study is GPS reflects the important applications of minimally invasive endoscopic surgery in treating biliary diseases, and it provides a complementary approach to cure cholelithiasis. And laparoscopic gallbladder preserving surgery is effective, whereas total laparoscopic gallbladder preserving surgery feasible for cholelithiasis and particularly favorable in prevention of incisional complications.
What is that LGPS and PLGPS total? What is the difference?
Sir, in laparoscopic gallbladder preserving surgery, sir, we gave the incision at the right subcostal incision, sir. There may be chances of incision surgical site contamination under, but in total laparoscopic GPS, we use that 4 port sites, sir, on that umbilical, epigastric, and right lumbar region, and right hypogastric region, sir. Through that only, with the help of choledocoscope, they remove the gallstones, sir.
Okay. So
They
basically,
have not quoted any recurrence rates in that?
Sir?
Have they quoted any recurrence rates in this study?
Sir, not sir. Okay. They concluded that
only about the technique, I think, what they're talking in this paper.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, sir.
Feasibility and technique. Yes, go on.
Yes. So, coming to post cholecystectomy procedure, according to Jasik, Jekria et al., this paper was published in December 7, 2020. So it is a persistence of biliary colic or right upper quadrant abdominal pain with a variety of GI symptoms, similar to those patients with cholecystitis prior to cholecystectomy. It may be either a continuation of symptoms caused by gallbladder pathology or development of new symptoms. The symptoms include, as I discussed earlier, that fatty food intolerance, nausea, vomiting, flatulence, and indigestion and diarrhea, and intermittent abdominal pain. The post-cholecystectomy syndrome may result from organic or functional diseases of gastrointestinal tract, and which can be classified on the origin of symptoms into non-biliary and biliary origin. So if cholelithiasis is present, 10 to 25% of the patients develop this post-cholecystectomy syndrome, and this study also found that the cause of the post-cholecystectomy syndrome was by functional disorders in 26% of the patients. but the pathophysiology is not yet completely understood up to now, and temporary diagnosis is further workup needed in this post-cholecystectomy syndrome. So the association between the, according to that paper, the association.
Ranjan,
Yes,
can I
sir.
come in, please?
Yes, sir.
Is he talking any more about post-cholecystectomy syndrome, or is that the end?
I think it's the answer.
Then, Pawan, you'll have to know, or other students must tell us, what are the possibilities in the diagnosis that give rise to the symptoms associated with post-cholecystectomy syndrome?
Sir,
Hari.
peptic Ajit, yes, sir.
Peptic ulcer disease, yes.
Yes, sir.
Correct.
Then epigastric hernia, sir, that can be
He
missed.
classified it as biliary and non-biliary. So you give me that list. It's important because if somebody has persistent symptoms, you have to rule out each one of them. Biliary possibilities.
What can be there, Ajit? Biliary possibilities post-cholecystectomy. What can happen?
Leak.
Bile leak, sir.
No. Those are all acute things. You're talking about
long term
and recurrence of symptoms and things like that. Okay, I'll make it quick and easy for you. Okay, it is a retained stone in the bile duct. There could be a stone in the cystic duct itself, in the remnant of the cystic duct. There could be a so-called cystic duct syndrome, which is controversial, but people say that if you leave a long cystic duct, that itself can give you trouble. And finally, it could be a biliary dyskinesia, which can include a motility disorder of the bile duct and perhaps sphincter of Oddi dysfunction. The non-biliary causes are peptic ulcer disease, perhaps hepatic disease, some kind of chronic hepatitis. It can be non-ulcer dyspepsia or irritable bowel syndrome. So when you have a patient with post-cholecystectomy syndrome, you've got to make sure that you rule out all of these before you brand them a functional disease. Thank you.
And to add to Lakshman sir, Stamphyloris picture and also chronic pancreatitis is also a possibility. So all those things have to be evaluated systematically before you brand them functionally. And most of the studies for post-cholecystectomy syndrome, majority of the things can be functional. So before you brand them as functional, you evaluate them thoroughly and then only. Ravi Shankar sir, anything to add, sir? There?
No. I think you're absolutely right. Dr. Lakshman has enlisted all the possibilities in both the biliary and non-biliary areas.
Okay. On, continue.
Yes, sir. So
only 2 or 3 slides are remaining. Yeah.
Sir.
Continue. Continue.
So the association between the cholecystectomy, metabolic syndrome, and non-alcoholic fatty liver diseases, which is a study done by Lattenstein et al. In April 2020, and it is a prospective study. And the study period is March 2009 to Jan 2011, over a study population of 4,307 participants. So according to this study, there is no significant interaction present between the cholecystectomy and metabolic syndromes, and no significant interaction between cholecystectomy and non-alcoholic fatty liver diseases. And cholecystectomy may increase the risk of colorectal cancers. A meta-analysis of 10 cohort studies done by Yong Jiang et al. In July 2017. So according to the study, there is no correlation between the cholecystectomy and the rectal cancers. Thank you, sir.
Hari, your final comments?
Sir, like always, sir, Pawan, will you accept this as an alternative technique?
Yeah, before going to Pawan, I'm asking you.
Sir, other than the thing, sir.
Sorry?
Sir, no questions, sir.
No questions. Will you accept? Whatever they can.
Sir, in that case, sir, with I won't accept it, sir, because we need a strong evidence with a large number of patients for study. So with good evidence.
Even before that, whatever the hypothesis they have propagated, in their own study, the numbers have been very less based on their hypothesis, and whatever the other hypothesis they have provided, there is no strong literature evidence backing their hypothesis. Yes, sir. Yeah. Ajit?
Sir, I think it is not feasible, sir, in Indian setup because we have to do long-term follow-up what they have done every 6 monthly. And as Srikant sir already told, loss of manpower and means wastage of which we can devote that time to other patients. And the sample size is also very less. So I would not accept this, sir.
Abdul?
Sir, laparoscopic cholecystectomy is standard, sir. I won't accept this procedure even for small stones. Because the risk of follow-up and the risk of further complication can arise later.
Yes. Okay. Ravi Shankar, sir? Final comment, sir?
I think Hari, you've done a good job. Sorry, not Hari. Pawan, you've done a good job, and Niranjan, you've done a very good job in moderating. I think the main thing is I think I agree with all the students that it cannot be considered as an alternate for laparoscopic cholecystectomy because it has now been proven across board with large numbers that it is the standard procedure for symptomatic gallstones. However, if patients who have older patients in the 60s, 70s with comorbidities where you have actually gone in for laparoscopic cholecystectomy and found that there is significant anatomic problems or frozen callous triangle and things, maybe then doing a open the gallbladder, remove the stone and wash it out thoroughly and do a cholecystectomy or put in a S1 and make sure that there is nothing else left, and then suturing it and coming out may be an option in select group of select patients, because if they are 70, then the chances of them living for another 10 years may be there, but the risk of recurrence probably is less in them. So in a selective group of patients, it may be used as one of the alternate procedures, but not as an alternative for laparoscopic cholecystectomy in the population at large.
Yeah. Good moderation, good discussion. I think I'm happy. But to take Ravi's argument further, you see, at least based on this paper's data, that cannot be offered. Because he is talking about a situation where there is a frozen callus, thick-walled gallbladder, difficult dissection. But this cohort was essentially in thin-walled gallbladders with no dissection. So based on the data of this paper, that thought may not be justified. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Srikant, sir?
Yeah, same views. In addition, this is a straightforward gallbladder where laparoscopic cholecystectomy is more easier than this gallbladder preserving surgery because it requires special skill of suturing that gallbladder.
Yes.
So I think it's not. I don't.
So it is not an acceptable technique as of now based on this particular paper. So just one additional message is just because a paper or a study is published in a reputed journal, you need not have to take that message without any proper evaluation.
Niranjan, can I come in?
Yes, sir.
Lakshman sir, what I meant was that because they have now shown that this is a procedure that has a recurrence rate maybe of 6 to 8%, maybe less than 10%. You can use the information that you have gleaned from this and maybe justify doing a cholecystotomy and taking out the gallstones with the hope that they may not develop gallstones at a later date, especially in older individuals. I agree with you that this cannot be directly supplanted, but as an extrapolation of the information gleaned from this.
Yes, sir. But a few of the other studies where they have done it in elderly age group, maybe they have done it for this particular reason.
Yeah.
But I don't know whether we can justify that technique medico-legally. I don't know.
Mm.
Then probably we may have to explain to the patient and relatives prior that this might be the other method we may adopt in a difficult situation. What is your comment, sir, regarding that?
Yeah, I think you may still want to do a subtotal cholecystectomy if it is a difficult thing,
Open cholecystectomy.
rather than rather than cholecystotomy. Yes.
Okay. I think we have come to the end of this session. Thank you, Pawan. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Good night. I'll end the meeting. Yeah.
Good night.
Thank you, sir.
Good night.